Stella sat at the lecture hall, her pen clenched tightly in her hand. She was restless, unable to focus on Professor Kingsley's voice. Anger and frustration within her. As the top student in her class, Stella was envied by her peers for her beauty and intelligence. She consistently excelled in her exams. But there was one major exemption: Professor Kingsley's course. Despite her efforts, she had failed it twice, putting her graduation at risk. To make matters worse, her failure in this course had bumped her down to second place in the class ranking. As the lecture ended, Stella hesitated. Her steps felt heavier than usual as she made her way to Professor Kingsley's office. She despised interacting with male lecturers, but she was desperate. The stakes were too high. Knocking softly, she entered and was immediately unnerved by the slight smile on his face. "Switch off your phone," he ordered, his tone sharp. "No recordings here." He did not want any evidence against him. Stella's stomach turned as she complied. "I am not recording, sir. My phone is off." "So?" he said with a smile. "You finally came. I was beginning to think you enjoyed failing my class." She stood frozen, his words laced with mockery. "Why am I failing this course, sir?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I know my performance was excellent." Professor Kingsley leaned back in his chair, a slight chuckle escaping his lips. "You are failing because you are not smart enough to understand my gestures." He paused, his eyes glinting with malice. "I've been very clear about what I want from you. If you don't comply, well, let's just say I can make your life very difficult and miserable. Believe me." Stella's eyes widened as she grabbed his implication. "What just?" she started to say, but her voice trailed off as the memory of his previous insinuation flooded back. His words hit her like a slap. The room felt suffocating, and without another word, Stella turned and left, her chest tight with despair. Back at home, she sank into her bed, her appetite gone. Tears stank her eyes as she prayed for strength, clinging to her faith, even as fear gripped her heart. That night, sleep invaded her as memories of his threats replayed in her mind. "I can make your life miserable." She recalled a senior student who had once rejected his advances and paid dearly for it. The girl had become the target of his rants, ostracized by lecturers and peers alike. Stella knew fighting him would be like battling a shadow. His connections on the university board made him unstoppable. "Now, friend Ada, what should I do?" Stella asked, her voice trembling. Ada smiles, her tone cold. "It's simple, say yes. Do what he wants. You can't afford to fail again. No, she replied firmly, though her voice wavering. I won't compromise my faith or my dignity. Ada, unimpressed, suit yourself, but don't come crying to me when you end up with an extra year. The pressure mounted later that day when Stella learned that Ada had passed the professor test while he had failed. Hopelessness clinged at her. She thought of her family, her village, and the weight of their expectations. As the first lady in her community to attend university, an achievement even the king had supported, she carried the dreams of many. Stella had always been taught that her body was the temple of God, a treasure to guide. But here, at the brink of her dream, she was faced with dilemma she never thought possible. Could she sacrifice her principles to avoid an extra year in school? Could she bear the shame, the guilt, or was she strong enough to fight and risk everything she had worked so hard for? That evening, trembling with fear and guilt, Stella made a fateful decision. She went to Professor Kingsley's hotel room as she had instructed her. The encounter left her broken, her spirit shattered. She cried bitterly that night, unable to forgive herself for losing her virginity to him. During her prayers, she recalled a faint detail. The professor had used a white handkerchief during their encounter, but her blurry vision and the weight of her emotions led her to dismiss it, focusing instead on seeking forgiveness. Weeks passed. One hot afternoon, fate intervened. Stella bumped into a man outside a shop. As she looked up to apologize, her heart skipped a beat. It was Stanley, the charismatic influencer, Ada's crush on Instagram. Their chance encounter sparked a connection that blooms over time. Stanley was Stella's breath of fresh air, kind, understanding, and supportive. He swept into her life, easing her burdens with his generosity. Not only did he offer to cover her tuition and final year projects, but he also transformed her wardrobe. As they grew closer, Stanley planned a romantic evening, whisking Stella away on a dreamy date. Stanley looked at Stella, his affection and admiration for her shiny bright for the first time in a long while. Stella felt truly seen, truly heard, and truly loved. However, other jealousy ignited when she witnessed the affection Stanley showered upon Stella. Feeling betrayed, emotions simmering just beneath the surface. You don't deserve Stanley, she hissed. I know your secret, Stella. How long before he finds out about you and Professor Kingsley? Stella's heart sank. Please, Ada, don't ruin my life. You know what happened wasn't my fault. Ada's eyes gleamed with malice. We will see, she said, her tone high. Reached out to Stanley and revealed Stella's past, twisting the story to paint her as manipulative. That evening, is it true? He asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. Stella denied it, terrified of losing him. He hoped bearing the truth would keep her safe. Months later, their traditional wedding day arrived. Villagers gathered to celebrate Stella's union with Stanley. The air buzzed with excitement, but a dark shadow loomed. Stanley's father had yet to meet Stella, and when he finally arrived, Stella froze in horror. It was Professor Kingsley. Their eyes locked, and his face twisted with fury. He stepped forward, his voice booming. "This wedding cannot happen. This woman is a liar and unworthy of my son." The crowd fell silent. Stella's heart shattered as whispering spread through the gathering. Unable to face the humiliation, she turned around, tears streaming down her face, her dreams crumbling before her. She realized that her mistake had cost her not the love of her life, but also a chance at a peaceful academic journey. The fear of facing a path compromised, and now the consequences were undeniable. Professor Kingsley's hatred ran deep, driven by the fear that allowing their wedding would expose the truth, that he had taken advantage of Stella and also used her. Yet Stanley's love for her was pure and genuine. What would Stella's fate be?